In this video we're gonna talk about everything around Iyouxin band from the World of Tanks community contributors. By firstly covering how everything started with the Raumfalte event, then analyzing Wargaming's reason to banning Iyouxin, if there is any evidence being that he ruined the event for the Chinese server, or if it's all just fake news from Wargaming, which Chinese players debunk on Reddit, a social media platform which I haven't used in years, because my left arm got too muscular. Anyways, and then we talk about how the community and the two biggest CCs react to Iyouxin's ban, with one of them having a controversial opinion which got a huge backlash from his fanbase. At the end we are stating a conclusion and feel invited to write your opinion on this whole matter surrounding Iyouxin in the comments down below. So you don't get too bored while I'm yapping, here's a casual 12,000 damage gameplay in the Object 260 from one of Iyouxin's clan members, called Strawman, also known as a delicious fish snack origin from Sweden. Let's get started. So the last month was quite exciting with two major events happening. The first one being the Raumfalte event, which had a huge CC and community outrage all over YouTube and on Reddit. Even a boycott got started by negatively reviewing the game on Steam and creating war gambling propaganda. By the way, I used the word boycott unlike Iyouxin. A short recoverage of the Raumfalte event for all the players who have lived under a rock or have something better to do than to playing this casino RR simulator. Wargaming was lacking ideas of how to milk their player base even more, which were restarted enough to support this monetization outside of Christmas as well for the last few years, and came up with a genius idea of creating tiered loot boxes, as they were thinking that their player base probably have way too much money in their pockets, especially in this thriving economy right now. If this profit-driven company would just spend 2% of their labor, which they invest into the loot box monetization, into optimizing the game, this game might be crushing the gaming market and wouldn't have this pay-to-win and gambling label on it. And on top of that, their loot box content isn't even cool. It's just broken premium tanks pushing players to buy the new content, to be the most competitive in the game. And some random ass 3D objects, not even epic skins like in Counter-Strike 2, where you can show off your cool new skin in front of your mates, for which you gambled a quarter of your yearly salary to get, and then proceed of getting roasted by them for being so stupid for wasting so much money on a skin. But some experts call it an investment. Anyways, the release of these boxes have been so poorly received by the whole community that something so epic and historical happened that gave me goosebumps. Here's what happened. The non-keyboard users decided to unite with the keyboard users to focus fire the new tanks. I could have never imagined this in my wildest of dreams. I also personally went on a hunt after the new tanks got released with my T-57 Heavy, which was not the most successful if I may be honest. I nearly caught one MPT off guard, but he sadly got away before I reloaded my full clip, which felt like this. Nevertheless, not only the community was not happy with Wargaming's lootbox shenanigans, also most, if not all of the CCs were neither, which ended up in a united, what is the right word for that, boycott? Of the CCs, not reviewing any of the new tanks which got released in the event. Well, not quite all CCs. One smaller YouTuber from England still decided to review the two most controversial tanks. But despite that, these tanks got nearly no coverage on YouTube. Regardless of this huge effort from the content creators, the MPTB was still one of the most played vehicles over the last month. Which makes you question if everyone got so lucky, like a fan of mine called Mailand, which got the chieftain with his 3 boxes, but decided to do this with it.
It's purple again. The only logical and undeniable conclusion I can possibly draw from this truly astonishing event is, what exactly was that incredible thing that just happened right now? Please tell me, right? I genuinely and unbelievably pulled the legendary chief tank from 3 completely free and unexpected boxes. Oh my goodness, shit man, that's absolutely insane, right? I can hardly believe it myself. Just keep it no. I won't keep it. Honestly, I can't support something like this. No, I can't. And I would never feel good if I had these tanks and played with them. It would always leave a bad taste in my mouth, because I'd know how disgustingly these tanks made it into the game.
Whoa!
Fast forward a few weeks, now all of a sudden Iyouxin was the scapegoat of this movement. Even though Iyouxin's wording is extremely similar, if not identical, to the rest of the CCs. The core message being to vote with your wallet against this type of predatory monetization. QB also explicitly told people not to buy the boxes because they were a bad investment and nothing in the boxes was worth the potential thousands of dollars one would need to spend. With Iyouxin being the one which got the honor of getting translated into Chinese and then shared on Bilibili, the Tamil version of YouTube, reportedly causing a significant unrest among players on the Asian server. Wargaming cited this as violation of the CC program rules, specifically for incidenting unrest and damaging trust, leading to his removal. But this is likely just a strawman argument to dodge accountability because Chinese players from the Asian server have spoken up on it on Reddit and said that the Asian player base were also extremely unsatisfied for quite some time, starting back when the BC-176 got dropped inside of Lootboxes. They also mentioned that only a tiny fraction of the player base is alright with this predatory monetization, which is even more predatory than on the EU server. And the user on Reddit also mentioned that they sold an unnerfed version of the VC-55 called the VC-55 Gothic Warrior. To my understanding, they sold the VC-55 as a special skin before the Tech 3 VC-55 got nerfed. And then the heavy tank rebalancing came, but the premium VC-55 did not get hit by the nerfing hammer. But luckily, karma always does find its ways. And they had a huge screw up by selling boxes for gold, which might at first sound not like a huge problem, but the compensation of tanks which you already have were so high that you could literally buy unlimited boxes. This guy got more premium days than the average Fortnite player has lived on this planet. Anyways, back to Iyouxin's ban. This move was a calculated warning shot to other CCs. Step out of line and you're next. By targeting Iyouxin, Wargaming sidestepped the systematic issues, namely their refusal to address the community's demands for fairness and transparency in monetization. Instead of engaging with their criticism, they hide behind thin excuses, obscuring the real problem. Their relentless focus on profits over player satisfaction. While Wargaming's decision may have been a short-term tactic to manage dissent, it only widened the chasm between the company and its player base. The community's unity behind Iyouxin shows that the players are fed up, and with Wargaming's attempt to make Iyouxin accountable for this accident only fueled the fire. Sadly, on the other hand, Skill, the second biggest CC on the EU server, sided with Wargaming on this decision by saying he has been in the trial period of being a CC and therefore you can't do stuff like this, resulting in a huge crash out from his community and fan base. Which you can see by looking at the dislikes and especially by looking at the comments. And some people also made some funny memes. Short note, this is nothing against Sil personally, just somewhat objective criticism on his stance around the Iyouxin's ban. While QB sounded at the beginning more pro-Wargaming,
and to what I'm saying, Iyouxin was removed from the CC program because he was only a CC for 3 months. And he had already done dodgy stuff that Wargaming did not like, which is why he wasn't a CC in the first place. They gave him a chance, and unfortunately, through either fault of his own or no fault of his own, that he ended up starting a boycott, whether he called for that boycott or not, and posted it on internationally around the world, in like the Chinese platforms and whatever, that it ended up with them having huge issues. Okay? And look, if you just started a new job or something like that, even though it's not a friggin' job, you know, I did not call for a boycott. I did not say boycott. I said how expensive the boxes were, and I said that I don't think that if you want the vehicles, that you should buy the boxes because it could cost you thousands of dollars. Jesus Christ. It's just insane.
But then took a more neutral stance.
Firstly, I've talked about this like 30 times on Saturday, and I'm not going to have people bring it up every 5 minutes. Of course I don't agree. I like Iyouxin. He's a good guy. I think what he said was fair, but he did make a mistake to call out for a boycott. That was a bit of a mistake, considering... it was a mistake considering how long he'd been in the program for, which was only 3 months. It was quite bold, and, you know, power to him. I had exactly the same opinion on him with regards to boxes being predatory. I said Wargaming should be ashamed of themselves. I delivered feedback behind closed doors for months before, saying it was a terrible idea. And yeah, I don't think there's really too much more to say about it.
Even though Wargaming hasn't mentioned his past being an issue in the mail about his removal of the CC program, which makes you question if QB and Skill really stated their honest opinions, or do they just play the safe game to not getting on Wargaming's most wanted list. It's disheartening to see prominent community contributors like Skill siding with Wargaming on their decision to ban Iyouxin, especially over such a divisive issue as the Raumfalte loot boxes. This move marked a new low in the Wargaming's credibility, pushing their predatory monetization practices to an unprecedented level, and as some users have already mentioned, an attack of CC free speech. In my opinion, every CC should have united in a boycott to send a clear message to Wargaming that they have overstepped the mark and that the community won't stand behind them if they continue down this exploitative path, even if it meant for them to risk their CC status. By failing to stand together with Iyouxin, Skill and QB missed a critical opportunity to hold Wargaming accountable and demand fairer treatment for players and contributors alike. To be honest, Iyouxin getting removed as a CC might have been one of the best things which could have happened to him, as his video got 100,000 views just within a few days, and on top of that, he got a lot of support in form of comments and donations, making him the face of the opposition from Wargaming's greedy monetization. Which brings me to the point that CCs shouldn't be scared to risk their community status by telling their honest opinions, because most of their subscribers are interested in their personality and gameplay. Sure, reviewing new tanks is a part of their content, but is losing credibility in the contrary worth it? My personal opinion, the expectations of Wargaming to provide a proper monetization besides loot boxes, and no, I don't mean to sell Star Wars commanders for 40 euros, has been so low over the last few years that we don't even realize our favorite loot boxes, being the holiday ops, are also a terrible way of releasing broken new premium tanks in the game, by forcing players to gamble for them each year, because they might never get sold again, like the BC and the XM. With each introduction of a new broken premium tank, slowly but steadily ruin the enjoyment and quality of gameplay, especially for newer and unexperienced players, which is also a huge problem regarding the longevity of World of Tanks. But this topic we will cover in another video in the near future. Therefore, their monetization should just shift from broken premium or reward tanks to customization, like every other big free-to-play game which doesn't have a pay-to-win label on it. I'm pretty sure that a huge part of the community would support this kind of monetization even more. And on top of that, Wargaming should also start lowering their initial expenditures for unknown flopping games and should just focus on the cash cow World of Tanks, with new proper content like maps or a new tech tree, so they don't have to release the Halloween event in May and loot boxes every other month, which, surprise surprise, they have already planned in the near future after the gift shop assembly shop, confirmed via YouTube comments on the latest video. I fully understand that a company this large wants to diversify, but it shouldn't come at the cost of ruining the main game with greedy and unhealthy monetization. Anyways, the real question being, how long can Wargaming keep milking his model before the core player base of World of Tanks, patience or wallets run dry? Or the quality of gameplay is just so bad that even WoT diehards will quit for good? What is your opinion on the whole Iyouxin case? Did I interpret something wrong about this topic? Do you understand Wargaming's decision by banning Iyouxin, or do you side with him, as he's been showing up the tyranny of Wargaming's predatory monetization system? Let's discuss this in the comments down below. Let me finish the video by saying that there have been a lot of controversies around World of Tanks which have split the community for years. For example, bringing back the Waffenträger of E100, if you should get the Object 140 T62A or Object 430, removing wheeled light tanks from the game, or abandoning the stun effect on Arty. But on Iyouxin's behalf, the community has never been more united.